Alright, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to another video. This time we're going to be doing predictions for the Esports Universe Summer Cup. Now I know people love my predictions, that's facetious by the way, so if I do predict a team wrong in this video, if it goes all haywire and I get everything wrong under the sun, I'm really sorry, I'm just crappy. But just as a precursor to this video, if you don't know already, I released a video on the Esports Universe Summer Cup, I think it was like 2 days ago now already, and that was a quick short event preview. So if you do want to know more information about the event, the Twitch, maybe just the overall event details, when it's being run, what's the prize pool, and actually a more in-depth look into every team participating that we know of so far, you may do so. I'll link the video in the description below, and of course if you can like, comment and subscribe both that video and this one, that would be very great. But shall we get right into the thick of things here? Of course we are going to be doing predictions as I said, and we're going to kick things off with Pool A. Alright, so let's talk about Pool A. Esports Universe have finally released the pools for the Esports Universe Summer Cup. They released on Twitter like yesterday, I think. So we finally know which teams are in which pools, and I'm going to be listing out those teams for you guys who is in Pool A. So it's Radiant Esports, one of two Radiant rosters in the Esports Universe Summer Cup. We've had another one join in a team's place. We'll get to that in just a moment. They'll be joined by Tal Esports, also known as the Atlas Lions, Socially Esports, Peak Esports, and Sam Boldy & Co, a team that will be going by the name Clowns, and that is what we will be referring them to is in the Esports Universe Summer Cup predictions video. A lot of esports there. So let's get right into the predictions. So again, just a quick disclaimer, if I predict your team that you're not going to get out of pools, I'm sorry. Please don't tweet me. I'm scared. But let's get into the thick of things here. So this is how I predicted the pools to go. So I've said Radiant Esports will be topping this pool. So just for the sake of it, just for differentiation, I'm going to call them Radiant V1. So Radiant V1's roster, again, if you do want to go through every single roster in depth, I did release a video yesterday, again, that has those. I'll link that in the description. But this Kids, Afro, Runner, Smokes, and Robstar. Now this is a pretty talented roster on paper, in my opinion, hence why I've got them first, the most talented in the pool. I've actually seen them play as well in the EGCL Season 2 regular season, and they've been pretty good there. They actually beat the Radiant V2 roster in a Radiant Family Feud on Friday night, and in that matchup they looked really organised, and again the individual talent on the team, you've got a lot of newbies on the roster. Kids who's I think a relative newbie to the top tiers of amateur leagues, alongside Afro and Robstar joining relative, I guess, veterans in the form of Smokes and Runner. It's made up for a really good mix of players, and that's why I think they're going to be first in this pool. But talking about second, I've actually put the second seed in as Tal Esports. Now the Atlas Lions, they've got a roster of Hixie, Aroma, Callum, Divinity, and Beanbag, and they've got the same kind of mix of veterans with new players. The standout player in that roster for me is Aroma. He's really proved himself over the course of World War II and Black Ops 4, so I'm really interested to see how he and the rest of the squad really meld, because again I haven't actually seen anything from them, but on paper, technically speaking, they are the second most talented roster in this pool, and they should at the very least get top 2. But saying that, I actually have Socially Esports in third. Now Socially, Socially, I was going to say I've read out the wrong roster there. Socially is Dingbats, Wilsane, Frimjay, Jodley, and Meebow. Now again, Socially on paper, really talented team filled with a number of veteran players from the amateur online leagues. For me personally, Socially and Tal, a bit of a throw up. I think they're just behind in terms of that talent, but I'd love to be proved wrong. It will be between them, in my opinion, for that second place spot in the pools. Now fourth place, I actually have Clowns. Now we'll get to why Peak aren't fourth in a minute, despite being the fourth seed in this pool. Clowns, they've got a lot of veterans on their team. These are names that you will remember if you are following the CWL Open events over the past few years. Benji almost made his way into Pro League this year under the roster of Don Gaming, and of course Brash Esports. He actually got to champs last year, so he is the standout player for me on that roster. But he's joined by a number of talented players, including Zemel, Samboli, Fieldsy, and Hayes. So it'll be really interesting to see how that mix of players comes to play in Pool A. I don't quite think they're going to be able to challenge Radiant Esports at the very least, but they may, just may, as a dark horse team, chock Tal and Socially, but I don't think they necessarily will. I think they will absolutely get 4th at the very least. And moving on to 5th, we have Peak Esports. Now, again, this is a bit peak for them, as it were. You've got Josh J7, Isaac, Radical, Crimson, and Avo. Now, Josh and Avo, they're two players that, again, people really rate highly. I rate Josh J7 highly, actually. But I don't think, here's the thing, right? I haven't seen Isaac, Radical, and Crimson play anywhere near enough. And when I have, I haven't seen the best performances, not individually speaking, but with the teams they've been with. So for me personally, I don't necessarily think, from what I've seen, that they're going to be able to do much in this pool. However, I'd love to be proven wrong. Again, the fact I haven't seen much of them could mean that I haven't seen them play at their best, so who knows what will happen, but just on paper at the very least, it looks like they won't be able to beat the rest of these teams in this pool. But we shall see. Of course, the beauty of the online leagues is that anything can happen, and shocks and surprises are absolutely in store. But that's going to be all the predictions for Pool A. Let's move on to Pool B. Alright, well, this is Pool B, and now we can get to see exactly which teams are in that pool. So again, we're going to be running through for you guys: Legion Gaming, Void Gaming, Radiant V2, Buzzkill Esports, and of course the open bracket team University. So let's get right into the thick of things here. Let's see how I predict each team to go. So I'm just going to transition it over for you guys. So this is what I have said. Now we'll go from 1st to 5th, as I did in the previous video, previous pool, sorry, albeit this is a little bit more jumbled up. So I've said that Radiant Esports, or Radiant V2, again will be first. This is a field day for Nathan, so he's going to be extremely happy with this, I have no doubt. Yeah, I'm probably going to get accused of bias, but I'm not. And the reason being, of course, when these two Radiant rosters were announced, people said that these are probably the two best amateur teams as they currently stand. I say amateur, I don't mean amateur as in the open bracket, I say amateur as in the league, so just to clarify that distinction. But Radiant V2, again, for those of you who don't know the rosters, maybe you didn't watch my video 2 days ago, you've got Gizmo, you've got Billy, you've got Kleenex, you've got Henry, and you've got Disable. 5 really talented players. Now, I will say that Radiant V2, they have had a few issues. They didn't look as strong as you might expect when they played their sister team in Radiant V1. They actually lost that match 3-1. So they didn't look very strong at all there. They had a good hard point at number 1, but they still kind of look shaky, and the roles, I do know factually, are off at the moment. Now, what I also would say is that Kleenex may or may not be playing for this team, so they will need to look for a pickup if that's the case. And of course, Kleenex is probably one of their star players on the team. So if they sort their roles out, they will absolutely crush this pool. But if they don't, they could potentially be at risk of falling to 2nd or 3rd place. But speaking of 2nd place, we do actually have Legion Gaming in 2nd. Now, Legion, great organisation. We're talking about them: Vision, Creative, Styled, C24, and J-Sayer. Again, these are really talented players. You've got 3 of ex-Future Gaming players on this team. Individually speaking, they're good enough to get 2nd place. As a team, haven't seen anything from them yet, so not really sure what their chemistry, what their roles are like. But I will say I'm really excited for it, and I think on paper this roster is strong enough to get 2nd place. Moving swiftly on, we have University in 3rd. This is Astralize, CD, Jugs, Brownie, and Equal. Now, I'm actually taking a bit of a risk on University. This is a team, for me at the very least, that is filled with really young, really new talent. I think maybe besides Jugs. Jugs, of course, coming from Team Hydrate before this. And just on that basis alone, I think having seen some of these players play, you've got CD again from Future Gaming, Equal from Void, I'm genuinely convinced that these guys are really talented. As they play as a team, maybe a different story, maybe they do a lot worse, maybe they do a lot better, who knows. But just on that basis alone, I'm going to put them in 3rd place. I think that's probably where they will end up. Moving into 4th place, Void Gaming. George is going to hate me for this. I'm really sorry, George, and the players probably will as well. Now, as I understand it, the roster they've submitted is Cameron, Hectic, Jens, Varsity, and Goldry. Now, Hectic is their most talented player, in my opinion, and I'm sure George wouldn't disagree with that. But Hectic isn't playing, so Hectic has recently quit again, therefore he will not be playing in this roster. Again, I'm not really sure who the pickup actually is, but him and Jens were the star players on this team, the sort of the Kleenex and the Gizmo of the team. Hectic not being there, I think, is going to really cause some issues for the side. Jens cannot carry this team on his own, and that's not to say that Varsity, Goldry and Cameron are bad in any means. They're just not Jens and Hectic. So it'll be interesting to see how this roster does, but I think just losing Hectic alone probably puts them fourth in this pool. But again, the beauty of the amateur leagues, as I said with Pool A, is that I can be proven wrong at any point, and we can be shocked and surprised, and we absolutely want to be. But finally in the pool, 5th place, again, we've got Buzzkill Esports. Now, Buzzkill, this is a bit of a trippy one for me because I don't know of Carlson, I don't know of Nexus or Nusus or Nisus or what his name is. I don't know, and that's the sort of off-putting thing for me here is I could be so off the mark with putting them in 5th, simply because for all I know, Carlson and Nexus could be S&D stars that could come out of nowhere and really surprise everyone. I don't necessarily think that will be the case though. Their one saving grace potentially in this pool is that they've got Vinny and Tremor, who are somewhat notable players, but even then, not really convinced that Buzzkill Esports will be able to pull off many wins against the really talented sides in this pool. I mean, you've got to think, right, Radiant, Void, Legion and Diversity, all extremely talented teams. It's a throw up between them as it is, right, for the top 4 spots. But for Buzzkill, I think they just sit outside that bubble. I don't think they're necessarily good enough to challenge those teams. So again, love to be proved wrong, and if I am, fair play, but I don't think at this point in time, on paper at the very least, Buzzkill Esports have that potential. But that's going to do it for Pool B. Again, just a quick reminder, open bracket 2, that is a 6th team that will be joining on June 29th, so these predictions could be wildly off. I'm not exactly sure how many teams get through. I believe it will be 3 or 4, probably the latter one team will likely not make it through to those final 2 days of playoffs on the 6th and the 7th of July. But that's going to do it for me from this video. Thank you so much for watching. Again, please like, comment, subscribe. Tell me how to improve in the comment section. I'd really appreciate it. I always want to improve these videos to provide you guys with the best content. Again, sorry if these predictions are wildly off. I'm sure I'm going to get people coming back to this video telling me that my predictions were terrible, but that's just the way of life. So again, thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next video.